You guys are interesting in the sense that you met in high school. Most of you met in high school. You've been in this one band since, what, 1989? Has it been that long?
I mean, I think in different incarnations it has been that long. I mean, it even probably, the origins of the band with Scott and James and Sean playing together, I think was way before that even, like just in public school, you know? And like,
yeah, that happened before public school. I mean, I got to know James from the schoolyard in grade 7.
Yeah.
And I got to know him even, I didn't like him.
Oh, there's a rivalry.
Yeah. Well, we would play British Bulldog, and you would be the only guy that ever tried to take me down.
You were a big man on
I
campus.
was a big man on campus.
And
so I was like,
little man who was having none of it.
This guy's not getting it. So that all changed. The relationship changed when we went on our Quebec trip. You know, when the school.
Yeah,
was it a ski trip? I thought. Who cares? I don't even remember. I just remember my Iron Maiden shirt and not making friends.
T-shirts was a big part of it, right?
But you brought your guitar on the trip, and you were the only guy that could play Sweet Child of Mine. And I just kept asking you over and over and over. I was like, wow, that sounds just like the record. That's pretty cool.
And then grasp at anything.
Then the school bought a drum kit, and I was one of the only dudes that wanted to try it. So I thought drumming was cool. So then that turned into like, we should get together every weekend and play the same beginning of the same Led Zeppelin song over and over and over. So we did that, and then Sean, you picked up the bass. And then James and I went to different high schools. I met Rick, and then in my new high school, I met a drummer who could actually drum. So that kicked me out of that position, and I became the singer because we didn't have one.
Yeah,
so that's the earliest.
Like
pretty much me and Scott were friends in high school before we were bandmates, and we were just like friends mostly over like video games and like staying up all night. And, you know. But then the one year at a Christmas assembly, Scott, Sean, and James got together with actually one of the teachers in the school and did like rockin' versions of like Zeppelin and I think the Beatles, Revolution, and a bunch, and it was really cool. And I mean, aside from the teacher, it was really cool to have the students up there. Like really, the whole school reacted to it. And I know I was in the audience, and I was like, oh, I want to do that next year. But at that point, I didn't have a band, and I wasn't in a band, so I thought I'd just sort of jump into their band. You know what I mean? I'd be like, hey, let's do this again next year.
So what was that band called?
We were, well, the original band.
We formed the band before we had a name, and then we had to pick a name for the assembly. The original one was...
we had a bunch. There was like, the Magic Johnson Experience was one of them. There was Stone Soul Picnic.
Yeah, those were pretty much the two.
We used those for shows, actually, those two.
Yeah. Until another band in Ottawa actually has the name Stone Soul Picnic.
So
we thought we were going to get sued.
Yeah, then
I thought those are goofy names. Let's come up with something a little more straight. So we picked Rainbow Butt Monkeys.
So we're at the end of the tip cycle, and actually we're not quite there yet because you get dropped by Mercury, and then riding to the rescue comes the woman who signed Creed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I mean...
It almost didn't happen.
Yeah, that almost, we were. I think we were mostly falling in love with TVT at the time. They sort of came in and like it really, you know.
They sold us on the independent label vibe because we'd just come from this major label.
And they were the only ones that were interested.
Well, there was Atlantic too at the time.
Atlantic seemed like,
but we didn't.
We were going to get into another one of these, like, okay, you're going to be on a huge label, and if you don't perform right away, you're going to have to go back in and make more songs, more singles. It was all very label-y kind of thing.
And and TBT, like, they really courted us well and like brought us down to like New York City and showed us like, like it was like exciting. And it was like, yeah, okay, and they're an independent. They were promising, to help develop the band and not just put out one record. And we were like real close. Like I think even the papers were drawn up, and this company called Wind Up just kept calling and saying, please don't sign with these guys until we've talked to you. Please let us talk to you. Please let us talk to you. But we were like, well, I think there's no point. We were like, we thought we had made our decision. For us, that's a hard thing to do, to make a full band decision. And
I think that at the time, Creed in the States was doing really, really well, but in Canada, it wasn't really.
Not yet.
No, it wasn't yet.
So that was sort of their calling card, and we were like, well, it doesn't. This is the only band this label has. It's not doing anything here. Why? We're already set to go this way. Why would we entertain this? It seems like a smaller roster, smaller label. And they insisted, you know, come, we'll get you a gig opening up for Creed in Montreal. It was Creed and Big Wreck, and just let us talk to you. And
I think we said yes, mostly because of the gig.
yeah, because
we were like, hey, a
never
gig in Montreal.
did well in Montreal.
Yeah, we were like, let's try to Montreal, play a good gig, and then if it doesn't matter what these people have to say, we'll just go home if it sucks, you know.
Yeah.
And it was the middle of a winter storm. Like, it was crazy weather. They were late getting in. Their plane almost delayed, and because of just the way it was, we didn't really get to meet them until after the gig in the kitchen of the venue on like beer cooler. Like, we were all just sitting, like, it was not in a boardroom. It was not like everything else.
But what we
done.
saw on stage
while we were
was,
playing,
like,
yeah.
Diana
Oh,
was
yeah.
up in
There
the
was
balcony.
Yeah, we had no following in Montreal, and the floor in front of the stage was pretty much clear of people except for this one woman in big giant sunglasses and a big wide brim hat, and she was just dancing. She knew all the songs, and we just thought, wow, Montreal is just crazy. It's got a lot of culture, huh?
Why hasn't anybody removed that woman yet? 'Cause I was
Yeah,
thinking,
what's
I was
going
like,
on?
Is she a nuisance? Is she?
Or does she own the club here?
Something
But
that
she
happened?
did know the words to our songs.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's the punchline.
Yeah. So we're waiting backstage on these beer kegs, and in walks this woman, who's her name is Diana Meltzer, and her husband Alan Meltzer, who own the label. These are the people we're there to meet, and he's a little round man, and she's a little short, skinny woman, and they just, as a pair, they're just a one-of-a-kind thing. So
Yeah.
right away we're like, okay, what are we in for here?
Yeah, by far two of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life.
Definitely the most eclectic billionaires I ever met.
But when they started speaking, it just made sense. Their sort of philosophy on music and the music industry and where it was going. It was right at the birth of the internet and websites, and they were really into embracing that side to build bands, and it just the pitch they gave us seemed very believable and seemed like something that was right for our band at the time. So
I remember them saying, you know, if you don't have a single right away, we promise we won't drop you. And I remember because of just how they, you know, their appearance, their eccentric personalities, I think we believed them right
Yeah.
away, and here we are still. And we didn't have hits, you know, off the first few records. So I think having what these guys had gone through in the past, it was like, wow, you know, I think these guys will really come through with what they're saying
and you know,
support us.
I think there was a little bit of the thought of like, holy shit, if you can sell 500,000 Creed records, then with our great music, we're going to take over the world. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we felt all the time. We were wrong with that. They were on something.
But
way more like that.
they came, they took Tip, they re-released it.
They did. Yeah,
And that gave that record new life, and it put you on the road to making the greatest of blue skies. Then we move on to the self-titled record. Why a self-titled record and just run out of ideas?
I think because of the process of the Greatest of Blue Skies, it was so like we were all saying, it was just felt so bogged down and so intense and so obsessive, and the record that followed just wasn't like that. The songwriting process was different. The camaraderie while we were making the songs, exchanging ideas, was becoming more and more collaborative and more just, I don't know, it was a positive feeling rather
Well,
than
isn't this the record that
negative.
you recorded out in the, or wrote out in the country someplace?
Some of it, yeah.
was, yeah. I mean, this was when we mostly, there's a place that we've always played in, like, or jammed and rehearsed and wrote in, called The Castle up in Campbellville. And this was probably the one record where we spent almost like we would go up 5 days a week, we'd get together, we'd get in the van, we'd drive up there, we'd stay there for the day. We did everything together in one place. Which,
And this is the first time we started recording,
Our
doing
own demo.
home recording.
Yeah.
We used to just jam and then rent a studio in Burlington and do it, but this was the first time we started to mess around with home recording as well as just, I don't know, there just seemed to be like a tighter unity about everything. And Grace of Blue Skies, Rich was a new member, and so all of a sudden, here we are, we're making this Finger 11 record, and we've never been tighter. We're all officially just a big, tight band. And it felt like I guess it just felt like the title signified that. It's like, okay, here we are. It's almost like we're starting again. There's a new strength in all of this, and there's a new feeling about it. So let's just call it Finger 11.
From a business end of things, was this a make it or break it record? Were you under pressure to?
I think so. I think the label expected more success off the first record, and even more success off the second record, and they weren't willing to necessarily drop us, but they were definitely looking for the band to succeed on a higher level than it had been up to that point. And when we make the record, we don't ever really look at it like make it or break it, because by this point we'd already been dropped by Mercury. We know if Wind Up drops us, that we go get signed to someone else, or we do it on our own. The band never has that make it or break it feel, because we don't feel like it's gonna change our path. We're just gonna do the music we want and put it out, and hopefully like people will, whoever we're signed to or whoever's managing us will believe in it and put it out, you know. But as far as Wind Up was concerned, I remember we put out Good Times as a single, and it just got like the worst, most negative like feedback. Like it was crazy. Like up to this day, I don't know if we were ever supposed to see it.
Really.
But we got a bunch of emails from radio stations across America saying like, totally disappointed. Can't believe this is the new Finger 11. Like crazy letters. And I think in hindsight, maybe that wasn't supposed to be forwarded to the band, you know what I mean? But it was just like, really? Like we felt like this is the best song we've written to date. This song has got it, you know? And Canada really embraced it. America just didn't. At that point, it's when the label pretty much said, listen, we got the song One Thing, which up to that point had never, ever, ever even been mentioned like a potential single. But
that's the funny thing. Like,
yeah.
A lot of people in hindsight will look back, and everyone will claim that they knew that song was going to be a hit the whole way, and I don't think anybody did, except for, I would say, even when me and Scott recorded it for the first time, it was in a batch of songs, and we thought, there was this song called Stay in Shadow. We thought, we're going to go home from this. We were up in this this house in Owen Sound, just finishing up some demos, and we thought, Stay in Shadow, when we get home, these guys are going to shit themselves when they hear this. And nobody really reacted to it, but this other song later in the disc called One Thing, everyone just had like, wow, there's something really, really cool in there. And so I think you guys were probably the only people that really knew something special was going to be.
But again, at the time, we were like,
that.
do we go this soft? Do we do this? Like, even though we know the song's good, like it was that weird feeling that bands get. I think it's like, you don't want to put something good out there because you might make you popular. Like, there's you start, but that's not us. And it's like, well, let's just do it. So we just, just approached the whole record song by song. Has a different feel. Everything had a different feel. It made sense on the record. And it was the president. He's not the president now, but he's gone now. But his name's Steve Lerner, and he had a nice dinner with us and said, "Listen, guys, I professionally, I'm really I'm a fan of your band. I think you guys would be dumb not to release One Thing. Just give it a shot. It's a good song, and it could go." And it took a while, but then it did.
Yeah, so lots of touring, and
yeah, and then I think that for us it looks like promoting the record till the end of the year, and then starting this year's touring January through February, and then through the next year. We're doing a cross-Canadian January tour. We're just trying to put together how and what we're going to do with the tour, and then it looks like heading down south with people. So.
Then we'll take 4 years off and then come up with another album.
Then we'll make our Fleetwood Mac record.
Well, I wish you guys the best of luck. Obviously, I've been following the band since the very beginning. Well, since high school. And I wish you guys continued success. I'm going to go now. Well, when I get a chance this afternoon, I'm going to listen to the record and
Cool.
Put the sounds together with what you guys told me, and hope it works out really well for you guys.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear it.
Thanks.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks, man.
Explore Music wears English Laundry apparel.